Welcome into a brand new episode of the Patriots Hub Podcast, short week edition. Alex, Barth, Matt Dolloff with you from
Short podcast edition.
Short, well, we'll see. Well, we kept it under 30 on Sunday, which is always kind of supposed to be the goal. Obviously, we suck at that.
Sure.
But we'll see what it is the Jets. So there is only so much to break down game plan wise. But I actually want to start, Matt, maybe in part because it's the Jets, but also I find this thing fascinating every year. Is the short week. I hate that the NFL does this, at least does it as regularly as it does. Look, I don't want to get rid of Thanksgiving football. That's a time-honored tradition that should go nowhere. But it's been about 15 years now, and started in 2012, that the NFL made Thursday night football a feature throughout the season. There was a small window there where it would start after Thanksgiving. But it's been about 13 years now that it's been a weekly occurrence outside of the first and last week of the season. Well, I guess it does exist the first week of the season, but that's technically not like they play. That's different because it's the champions. But anyway, like I'm personally not a fan of it. I think it's really tough on the players. You get a worse product. I think you want to do it later in the season. That's fine. This isn't really late. So it's not so much about this one, but it ultimately, like it impacts games. The short week thing is a factor. And to go back to last year, the Patriots kind of got off to like a decent start, right? They beat the Bengals in Cincinnati. They have that overtime game against the Seahawks and things look sort of promising. And then they get absolutely exposed in week 3 on Thursday night and never turned back around from that. And that's not to say if they didn't have to play on Thursday night, that whole coaching staff and setup would have worked. I don't think that's the case, but the point is to illustrate it's a test. It's not as easy for some teams as it is others to deal with this short week. Mike Vrabel is somebody who I trust handling the short week, certainly. So, a lot more than last year's staff, and this staff as a whole, a lot more than last year's staff, but you can't look at this and say it's nothing. Like these games, you have to observe them a little bit differently because the Thursday night thing is a major factor.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have any official data to back this up, but it just feels like these games favor the smarter teams, the well-coached teams, the teams that have a little more of a sense of urgency. And I think the Patriots have definitely had that. Like they've had that sense of we need to take care of business. They haven't had many letdowns. They've beaten up on the bad teams. The close games have been against the better teams. And so this is a team that, that strikes me as they're not going to take this game lightly. They're going to do everything they can to prepare within the time that they have. And I think Thursday night games generally favor home teams. The home teams are 6-3 this year in the 9 Thursday night games. That's not counting the season opener. And so I think it does favor the home team because there's even quicker turnaround if you're going on the road for a game like that. So I just think being at home generally gives you a bit of an edge over the team that's coming in here. But these games are still pretty unpredictable, Barthy. And I think there's a chance that this one is closer than people are expecting. I would predict the Patriots end up pulling away in the second half of this game. But I could see it being, competitive in the first half, like we've seen in some of these other Patriots games where they pull away late. So I could see it going that way just because these games are so unpredictable. 4 of the 9 games decided by 3 points or less, and only 3 of them decided by, 17 or more, and the rest were within, double digits. But look, these games are generally competitive, more competitive than maybe you expect. But I think the home teams are favored. And if you're a well-coached team at home, which the Patriots are, I think they have a decided edge. Like even just clearly being the better team this year than the Jets, having the better record, being in a better spot and all that. I think just being at home and knowing that they've been pretty well coached and they've had a good sense of urgency based on, week to week taking care of business against inferior opponents. I think the Patriots have the edge.
Yeah, look, the home team thing's huge. The home team thing's a big part of it. You lose that day of travel. The Patriots have not had a lot of home Thursday games. This is going to be their first home Thursday game since 2022, just their second since 2019. And the record reflects that. They're 2-4 in the last 5 years. They played 2 Thursday night games in 2022 because they played on Thanksgiving. And I talked about this with Andrews on Monday, David Andrews, and you can check that out. I talked about how you're not really doing this intense install. You're going to run some more vanilla stuff. Vanilla is probably not the right word, but you're leaning more on kind of your base calls and things like that. So to your point, it is going to be which team can just execute at a higher level. You're not really going to pull a fast one on the opponent. You're not going to hit them with a ton of things off guard. It comes down to talent level, ability to execute consistently, discipline, technique, fundamentals, things like that. So in that regard, the Patriots have an edge, but you mentioned something else in there too. Divisional games are weird. Like, look at what happened. And now they were on the road. Look what happened to the Bills last week against a much inferior Miami Dolphins team. So does that mean the Jets are going to win? Like, no, the Patriots should absolutely win this game. But could it get a little weird and maybe be a little closer than people want it to be and get a little uncomfortable? Yeah. I mean, maybe it comes down to like a 10-point game late because the Jets sort of hang around or the Patriots get off to another one of these slow starts or whatever. It's just this, like, if they're playing it Sunday, 1:00, we're coming on here talking about a blowout. There just are enough, I don't know, you want to call it a weirdness factor. There are enough things that make this game weird that I'm like, all right, maybe it's a little more of a grind than we're expecting it to be. Now, sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's just the Jets have been weird this year. Like the
Jets are also a weird football team. Yeah,
they're 2-7. I'm not sure they're as bad as 2-7 would suggest. Like they've lost. I got it right here. They've lost by more than a touchdown only one time all year, and that was to the Bills. And so like they could lose by more than a touchdown to the Patriots, who are 8-2 and clearly superior, better quarterback, all that. 3 of their losses by only 2 points. They beat the Bengals by 1 point. And it's not like they haven't had an easy schedule. Steelers, Bills, Broncos, like they've had close games against even good teams this year. So like, look, maybe they're just not equipped in the coach and quarterback department to really execute and manage the game down the stretch and like win the close ones. The Patriots, I think, have shown that they are capable of they're far more capable of winning close ones than they have in the previous 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And so I think they're finally back to winning the close ones. I think that's because they have a good head coach and one of the best quarterbacks in the league, Drake May, the way he's playing this year. And so that's another reason I give the Patriots the edge. But it's another reason I feel like the Jets could hang in there. They could hang in there at least early on. Like we've seen the Patriots give up so many opening drive touchdowns. I could see that happening again. I could just see this being a close competitive game. And if the Patriots turn the ball over one or two too many times than they want, like they did against the Steelers, then maybe this game is even more of a nail biter than we want it to be. Like I know, look, it's the Jets. I know people like to say the Patriots are 8-2. They're rolling. I'm not going to predict that they're going to lose to the Jets or anything like that. I'm not going to say they need to like make a comeback and have a fourth quarter comeback, like close that kind of game against the Jets. I'm not predicting that, but the Jets have had a weird season. They've lost a lot of close games. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a close one just because it's Thursday night. And the word of the week, I guess, is weird. Weird things can happen in Thursday night games. I still predict the Patriots to win, but it could be a weird win.
And the Jets do have back-to-back wins too. Like, so they started 0-7. They beat the Bengals. They had their bye week. They beat the Browns. Now, there are some other qualifiers here. Like, why are we not maybe taking the Jets that seriously? Let's start with the offense. They rank 25th in the NFL in scoring, but they are 28th in yards. They are 30th to 32nd in most major metrics in the pass game. They really struggle to throw the football. Justin Fields has not been good in that regard. On top of that, they will be without Garrett Wilson. The reporting is he's going to miss a few weeks, so he won't play in this game. Matt, Garrett Wilson this year, the Jet, despite missing 2 games, is the Jets' leading receiver with 36 catches for 395 yards. The next closest wide receivers on the roster, Josh Reynolds has 11 catches. So Garrett Wilson is 36. The next closest receiver has 11. And that's having only played 5 games. And then the next closest in terms of yards is Tyler Johnson. He has 187 yards. So almost half of what Garrett Wilson has. Now they have some other players that contribute. Rookie tight end Mason Taylor's been decent. He's their second leading receiver overall, 30 catches for 246 yards. And we'll get to Breece Hall in a second. He's been a factor in the pass game, obviously more of a run threat, but the Patriots have been beat by tight ends at times. They don't really have anybody else to worry about massively in this game. You want to make the Jets throw the ball. We saw teams do this to the Patriots in the early 2000s when they ran the ball well but weren't a threat to throw. Corner on one side, corner on the other, one safety deep, put 8 in the box. Dare them to try to throw the ball deep on you. Like, it feels like that kind of game for the Patriots defense because this run game, and we saw it last week, like can be effective. Breece Hall's very good. Justin Fields is an effective runner. And the Patriots, they had their worst game against the run last week. They've still been a pretty good run defense. And I think what helps is they can throw resources at it. This is a game that in coverage, you really can just kind of man up across the board and leave it alone. You don't need to go into disguises. You don't need to go into rotations. You shouldn't need to get too creative. Just take away the absolute basics. And to me, it's throw everything you have against the run and against Breece Hall.
Right. Like that's another way the Patriots kind of have the edge in the game is that they don't have to come up with this exotic game plan defensively. And even if they had a full week, it wouldn't have to be too creative to stop Justin Fields from throwing the ball. He hasn't been a great NFL passer, like really at any point in his career. Holds the ball too long, not accurate enough. And like they have a good offensive line, the Jets. I think they're top 5 in time to throw for the quarterback. Justin Fields is also 5th longest holding the ball in terms of his own individual time to throw. So yeah, like stack the box or cover with 8. Like don't blitz too much. Just cover the hell out of the field. Keep Justin Fields in the pocket the best you can, and just let him sit back there and get coverage sacks. Like I could see that happen. I could see that being the way the Patriots, the way the game plays out for them. Like defensively, like they don't have to do anything too aggressive against Justin Fields, and I'm confident enough. I think they've strung enough games together in terms of their run defense and their tackling that they're going to prevent them from making. They're going to prevent Justin Fields from making plays with his legs, I think. And we'll see about Breece Hall. He's one of the best running backs they'll face this year that they've faced so far this year. But I've been confident enough in the way that they've structured their overall run defense between the tackles and the way they've tackled the guys in space and tackled guys at the second level. Like I have enough confidence in them that they're going to be able to figure that out, and they are going to be able to dare the Jets to throw. And Justin Fields, like the fact, despite having some of the most time in the league to throw the ball because of the offensive line in front of him, he's still one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league just because he holds it too long. And when he does throw the ball, it's not really on the mark as much as you want it to be. He's just never going to live up to the promise of being the 12th overall pick in that draft. And so I think despite having a good line in front of him and a good running back, yeah, the receivers have obviously left something to be desired, and he's not even going to have Garrett Wilson this week. So very extremely limited options there. Like it's almost like Christian Gonzalez is almost wasted in a matchup like this. He doesn't have a Garrett Wilson to cover down the field, but that's just all the more reason that they should be able to cover well. And the way Justin Fields holds the ball, like I don't think they even need to be aggressive. I think they might be able to get pressure with 4 just by sticking to the plan and pushing the pocket back and getting him within, get him in 3 seconds. You don't have to get him within, 2 seconds or whatever. I think he's going to hold the ball long enough that they're going to get coverage sacks. I think that's generally going to be, that should be the plan for them.
Yeah, I think short of Breece Hall really getting going, the Jets offense isn't going to be able to do much. Like if the Jets are going to make this a game, it's one showing up on defense, which we'll get to in a second, and getting Breece Hall going. They can't win this game if he's not their best player on the field. So if you're the Patriots, it's all attention on him. Like you said, even if you don't get to Justin Fields, they don't have guys that can separate, and he hasn't been effective. And, to your point, yeah, you send 4, even if you don't get pressure, if you just contain him and don't let him run, is there, a massive threat of their pass game? And I would say no. So I think you just got to keep him in check that way. Anything else on the Patriots defense? It does look like we'll go through the injury report here real quick. It does look like Christian Barmore is trending in the right direction after obviously sitting out part of that game yesterday. He was a full participant. So yesterday the Patriots had 15 players listed as limited it was kind of a projected injury report. So it's tough to tell where guys are at. Today, most of those players upgraded to full participants. There's a group that was still limited, and we saw it practice were clearly off to the side. That was mostly offensive players, but Christian Barmore was a full participant. Caleb on Chason, Jalen Hawkins and Marcus Jones, who got banged up in that game, they were both full participants. So, short week, maybe they give those guys some rest. Again, maybe we see more of a guy like Corey Durden in this game, but, filling in for Barmore, or maybe Del Pettis, your guy gets a little more run at safety. But it does look like after it looked like a bit of a, they got banged up last week. They got banged up on defense. It's a very physical game. As good as it can be on a short week, it does seem like at least defensively, they have guys trending in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, linebacker, something to watch there because, Marte Mapu, he has the neck thing. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he was a full participant today, so maybe he'll play, but I don't know if he'll be out there that much, but he might have to be if other guys are out. We don't know if Christian Ellis is going to be back.
Ellis
He's been
and
limited
Gibbons,
with a hip.
yeah.
And Jack Gibbons, who I thought had a pretty solid game last week. He made a lot. He led the team in tackles last week. Played, I don't know if it was a season high in snaps, but it felt like it. It was his most impactful game. And now he's limited with a hamstring, so that's a little concerning. So, I mean, yeah. And especially when they want to run the ball and, they got Breece Hall and Justin Fields maybe getting to the second level with his legs. Like, the linebackers and the tackling is going to be something that they really need to be on their P's and Q's about. And I don't know if they don't want to lean too much on Robert Spillane, who I know that sounds like he might have a 17 tackle game the way it's going with the injury report and the depth chart. But yeah, that's going to be something to watch for.
You know who it could be a big game for? We haven't talked about him a lot this year in general. Yeah, I mean, he missed time. He was hurt. This could be a big Jelani Tavai game. Ooh. Put him at the second level. This is where he's at his best. Put him at the second level and just send him downhill and just send him to plug gaps and use his strength and his size and his power. Kind of a unique matchup, but even if it wasn't for the injuries, frankly, I think I'd be saying this, but especially with the injuries, I do wonder if this is a game where we see Jelani Tavai kind of featured defensively. Sure. It's a really good matchup for what he does.
Yeah.
And they don't have that many guys left to do that after moving on from Juwan Bentley in the offseason.
Yeah. With his play strength and you need someone to tackle a guy like Justin Fields, who's obviously not a typical ball carrier with his size. Maybe they could use someone like Tavai to execute something like that.
All right. On the other side of the ball, you mentioned turnovers for the Patriots offense. The Jets defense, the New York Jets defense has forced one turnover this year. One. They have forced no turnovers on American soil. Their only turnover was in one of those European games against the Browns. It's a good one, right? I love it when you can do qualifiers like that. The Jets have not forced a turnover on American soil this season.
Do they even have PSI, or do they have a different measurement over there?
So I think, the Drake May's been a little more turnover prone the last couple of weeks. No excuse this week. That's also, they now don't have two of their best players. Sauce Gardner, gone. Quinnen Williams, gone. Mike Vrabel said this week, somebody's going to be in there. He'd rather they just play with 9, but somebody's going to be in there. Will McDonald's also banged up. Didn't practice or was listed as a non-participant yesterday. Was limited today. So that's another one of the Jets' better defensive players. I don't think the defense is quite what it's been. We've talked about the vaunted Jets defense the last few years. Even before the trades, it wasn't a great unit. Some of that is not forcing those turnovers. That's such a big part of what they did. They've played a lot more in man coverage. The past numbers show that has not worked for them. To me, it's can the Patriots get up 10, 14 points early, quick strike offense, do it through the air, and then you force them to be one-dimensional, and you can really box them into a corner through that. So this is, it's Drake May kind of taking care of business. If he can make a couple big throws early against man coverage and get them up, it's going to be paint by number for him in the offense the rest of the way. Their run defense has been a little better, the Jets, but it's not impenetrable. Now we'll see who's running the ball for the Patriots, obviously, with the injuries, but this is a team I think they should be able to throw on.
Barth, am I an absolute piece of shit? Because I feel like this is a get-right game for Drake May.
No, I think that's...
Is that an asshole take to have?
In one sense,
well, people are going to get mad if I say Drake May hasn't been at his best the last couple of weeks. But look, it's a testament to how big of a leap he's taken this year. That he's played arguably the best quarterback in the league in a lot of different areas. There are a lot of different stats you can point to. And even the last couple of weeks, he's made a number of incredible plays. But, the turnovers have crept back in. The decision-making has been sort of hit or miss. He's felt a little shaky under pressure. So this feels like it could be a get-right game, and I think one of the reasons you already touched on is because they haven't turned the ball over that much. They haven't been great in terms of getting pressure on the quarterback, and this is another high blitzing team, so I wonder if Josh McDaniels is going to find this defense a little easy to diagnose when he looks at the film, and they don't even have to do anything too crazy. Let's just bust out our basic anti-blitz plays, and they're probably going to do their standard blitz packages, whatever they can plan on, on a quick week of preparation. And so, like, look, I think as long as Josh McDaniels has them prepared and that they're ready to combat the blitzes, I think Drake May's going to have time to throw. I think the Jets aren't going to turn the ball over. They're not going to have a lot of opportunities to turn the ball over. And so I feel like Drake May could have one of those games where he gets back to where he was earlier in the win streak, where like he's not even turning the ball over. He's playing a clean game on top of playing a productive game. And look, I know that this is Thursday night. They're unpredictable. This game could be close, but I don't see this being a game where Drake May is going to have to make a big play late in the game. I feel like this is going to be a game where they pull away in the second half. And so he just needs to close strong, protect the ball. And, it goes back to the fundamental stuff. Don't take a lot of penalties, protect the ball, and just be smart. I think as long as Drake May plays smart, it'll feel like a get-right game for him because of the lack of turnovers and the lack of bad decisions. But I think as long as he just eliminates or really limits that stuff, I think he's going to come out of this with a win, and we're going to say he's continuing to roll, continuing to have a good year.
Yeah, I think it's the turnovers. That's the big thing that's crept back in a little bit. So we talked about this on Sunday night. Like, I actually thought he played really well outside of that interception, but it was such a big play and it was a pretty bad mistake that you weigh that. Just cut down on the turnovers and they'll be fine. Just don't open the door for the Jets and they'll be fine again. This is a defense that has not forced a turnover on American soil this season. So I want to make sure I read that right now that I did that line, that turnover. Yeah, that was the Broncos game. Okay. So they've not forced turnover on American soil this season. And then once you get up, obviously you do want to run the ball. That's where things maybe get a little bit trickier. Again, the Jets' run defense has been better. And when you look at their backfield situation, that's yesterday's injury report. Where's today's? There it is. Terrell Jennings and Ramondre Stevenson both still limited today. They were in that side group. That to me means those guys at best are, their status is up in the air. Does seem like, and Travion Henderson came back in after his injury, so maybe not the biggest surprise, but you're going to have Henderson. Ernest Johnson still has one more practice squad elevation. They signed Jonathan Ward today, right? They brought him back, who had been here recently. So maybe 2 practice squad running backs, but there is also an element of they might be without Austin Hooper. He's in concussion protocol. He isn't practiced this week. So do you need a spot for CJ Dupree? Do we see Jack Westover more at tight end? Is this a week? To me, this is a week you go back to 6 offensive line. You put Caden Wallace or Marcus Bryant out there as a 6th lineman and just plow your way ahead. They are going to be, there is a chance they're going to be significantly shorthanded at running back though. So it's going to be interesting to see how they qualify that or how they counter that, especially let's say it is like a 7-point game late and they need to run the clock. And are you comfortable giving Travion Henderson 30 touches on a short week where he is banged up? He did hurt his knee last week and he said he was fine. He was a full participant, but are you comfortable giving him 30 carries in that situation? Or do we see more to Ernest Johnson or somebody else? And how do you block it without Austin Hooper? They're going to have to get creative in their run game personnel this week.
Yeah, look, I think they elevate Johnson one more time. Ernest Johnson. They got the one elevation left. He's been on the kick return unit and on top of being on offense. I could see Johnson getting more offensive snaps, especially when you talk about they're going to be more of a basic fundamental offense this week. That bodes well for a guy like Ernest Johnson who just got here and just doesn't really need to learn anything too complicated. Just, get the ball, there's your gap and run it. So and don't fumble, so if you keep it simple enough with Ernest Johnson, you could probably incorporate him on offense a little more. If the injury is legit with Henderson and with Jennings, you're going to have to limit them. They're not going to have a bell cow this week, especially the way that it's been going the last few weeks. I know Travion Henderson had himself kind of a breakout game, but I think he's proven that he's a home run threat and he can make a big impact on the game without having to get the ball 30 times. And so I expect them to really distribute the snaps there. And I expect Ernest Johnson to get more snaps and probably more. He only had the 1 carry last week, so probably more touches on offense too. Yeah, the tight end one is interesting. Jack Westover played a lot last week. I don't think he's had a great year. I know they've used him mostly as a fullback, not really. He's not really a traditional fullback. So it's I don't know that he's going to be most useful in that spot, but they might actually have to use him as a traditional tight end this week. And yeah, CJ Dupree, they could use an elevation on him. They have the guy from the international pathway, Thomas.
I don't think they can elevate him. I'm pretty sure
they have to sign him.
He has,
I want to give Doug Kite credit for that because he was reporting about it earlier that they have to sign him to the 53-man roster. So I don't know if that's going to happen this week. But Dupree's sitting right there. Maybe he gets his first elevation of the year. But it could just be, more snaps for Westover. But I don't know. Are you going to go into the game with only 2 tight ends where they still do like to run 12 personnel? Like, are you going to do that with only 2 tight ends on your active roster? So if I were to project the elevation this week, I would say it's Johnson and Dupree. So that would be my guess. And they are going to have to get creative either way because of the injuries and the elevations.
If they have one of Stevenson or Jennings, then yeah, I think it's Johnson and Dupree. The question is if both of those guys are out. And are you going into this game with essentially only one healthy running back on the active roster and then you add Johnson? Or are they going to want to add another guy? That to me is the big question there. Anything else on the offense?
That's about it. I think we've covered it. I'm curious to see if the receiver distribution continues the same way it's been. Mac Hollins had a huge game last week. I thought Pop Douglas would have been in line for a bigger workload there, but it feels like Hollins is sort of emerging.
Yeah. And I'll just add to that,
new sort of number 2 guy behind Diggs with Booty out.
Yeah, Kayshon Boutte was in that limited side group, so he may or may not be available. We don't know if he's out. Yeah, I'm with you. More Mac Hollins. Do we? They're not going to have a ton of time to draw stuff up this week, but do they try to get something in for Kyle Williams? Maybe that. Does he give him one big play again this week? So it'll be interesting to see how they divide that. One other note: Jets special teams. They had an excellent return game last week. The return unit's the real deal. Got to be on your game there because it's like a turnover. Like you can't give the Jets that extra opportunity there in a kick or punt return game.
They cover on special teams well too. They got it right. They've allowed the 4th fewest average yards on punt returns. So Marcus Jones don't muff a punt again. He muffed a punt last week. Hopefully they tighten that up.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly worried about this Patriots special teams coverage. It's been good this year, but the Jets, they give a pretty good matchup on that.
It's a good unit
area.
It's a good unit. All right. Well, there's a little short week game preview. Are we doing the Thursday night 3 a.m. pod? Is that the plan?
We'll talk about it. I feel like the fact that it is at Gillette and we're gonna stay at the stadium and right after the game, and so we're probably there until at least 1 a.m. Right?
Yeah.
And so like at the absolute earliest we're gonna be setting up for that post game pod is at 2 a.m. That would be fun. I don't know. We might have to do it, Barthy. It'll depend. I'm old though. I might be saying I'm going to pass out, do it first thing in the morning. But I don't know. I feel like a late night pod would be a lot more fun than and a lot more entertaining than like first thing in the morning.
If you subscribe to the Patriots Hub Podcast, Sports Hub YouTube channel, you'll get notified whenever that pod is up, whether it be late night Thursday or early Friday. Frankly, most normal people, you're going to see it 9 a.m. either way, but be sure to subscribe to find that. And obviously we'll have written content on 985thesportshub.com as well. And
your David Andrews show is going to be more entertaining too, because you're going to be on like 1 hour of sleep. So,
the plan is for me and Andrews to do Friday morning.
Okay.
I mean, we can do both, but so there's going to be something like that. So
we're doing the 2 a.m. You and me at 2 a.m. Barthy.
Yeah.
You get 2 hours of sleep. You get up, you go to the office, and you do the pod with Andrews. That's the plan.
The draft. And then I'm on Felger and Mass on Friday, 2 to 6.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, no nap in between. You need to be completely delirious, hearing voices in your head.
Basically, it's going to be one of those days. Subscribe to see all of it. Until then, for Matt Dolloff, I'm Alex Barth. We'll talk to you at some point after Patriots-Jets.